Have you ever looked at trash and thought, there's no way that belongs in a garden? Think again. Today, we're turning the forgotten, the broken, and the thrown away into bold garden statements, using nothing but creativity, color, and a little vision. This is Verdant Dreams, where we believe small spaces and small budgets can grow beautiful dreams. In this video, you'll find dozens of DIY trash garden ideas, sorted by timestamps. Jump to what inspires you most. And if something sparks a question, or an idea of your own, leave a comment below. We read everything. Now before we dive in, I want you to hear this. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story, and a real family. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you hit that button, you're not just helping a creator grow. You're helping a dream stay alive. You're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for seeing me. In the heart of a tiny garden tucked beside a weathered cottage, something unexpected gleams from the fence. Not iron, nor wood carvings, but a mosaic of plastic bottle toppers, each a tiny burst of joy, perched like playful sentinels along the garden edge. What once was trash, water bottles discarded without thought, now dances in color above the chrysanthemums and marigolds. Lavender blends into aqua, coral melts into mint. Each painted bottle, turned upside down and reshaped with care, transforms a simple fence into a parade of whimsy and charm. It's the kind of creation born not of wealth, but of vision. A Saturday afternoon project that needed no blueprint, just old bottles, leftover paints, and a dream for something cheerful. The plastic, once dull, now reflects light like glass. Some are sliced into flower shapes, others into crown-like peaks, catching the wind and the eyes of every passerby. Children point. Neighbors ask. Birds sometimes perch on their glossy tops. Beneath, the border overflows with asters and anemones, dancing gently in the breeze. Bees hover lazily. The fence no longer guards a garden, it completes it. It tells a story, of hands that create, of minds that refuse to waste, of joy found in the smallest, simplest things. There's something deeply human about it, turning the overlooked into the admired. This fence is no longer just a line of division. It's an invitation, a conversation starter, a visual symphony that blends upcycling with artistry. It whispers to the world, beauty isn't always bought. Sometimes, it's painted, one bottle at a time. And in this garden, where the flowers bloom with purpose and the fence smiles in color, trash has never looked so alive. Beneath the soft canopy of a tiny gazebo, nestled in the hush of a backyard garden, two benches sit like wise old souls. Their form is wild yet graceful, twisted tree roots, reborn from the forest floor into something unexpected, a resting place. They weren't carved by machines. Their beauty wasn't forced into shape. Instead, they were discovered, patiently cleaned, gently polished, and allowed to speak in their own organic language. Each curve holds a memory. Each knot tells of wind, soil, rain, and time. Placed beneath the rustic beams of the pergola, these root-sculpted benches carry more than people, they carry stories. Friends sit here with steaming mugs, watching the wind ripple through the golden asters. Children perch on the edges, imagining the roots to be dragons or wild horses. Lovers lean close beneath the evening sky, their conversation softened by the whisper of marigolds swaying nearby. The bench is more than furniture. It's a sculpture grounded in truth. This corner of the garden was once overlooked, just a patch of uneven soil behind the fence. But now, framed by the soft brilliance of Japanese anemones and the persistent hum of bees, it feels sacred. It feels alive. No one asks where the roots came from. They ask who had the vision to let them breathe. That's the power of rustic design, of seeing art where others see debris. The root benches don't hide their imperfections. They celebrate them. The cracks and curves become personality, grounding this garden in nature's wisdom and the timeless rhythm of renewal. Here, in a small English-style backyard, the benches do not just offer a place to sit. They invite you to slow down, to listen, to remember that beauty often hides in what we throw away, and that even roots, forgotten and buried, can rise again with purpose, holding space for laughter, tea, and quiet moments. In a world where space shrinks and beauty stretches, innovation finds its home in forgotten corners. Like this patio, a tiny slice of earth behind a home, just large enough for a chair, a breeze, and a bit of sun. Here stands a tower. Not of stone or steel, but of painted drums. Once rusty and retired, left leaning against a warehouse wall, they now sing in soft blues, yellows, and lavenders, colors that call to the garden soul. Stacked 3 high, each drum has been lovingly transformed into a planter bursting with life. The top drum overflows with golden chrysanthemums, their round blooms like buttons of sunshine. The middle cradles cheerful marigolds that repel pests and invite pollinators. The bottom spills with sedum, succulent, strong, and sweetly wild. They stand proudly, as if they've always belonged. The beauty of the drum tower isn't just in its blossoms, but in its journey. It's a symbol of redemption, trash turned treasure, metal turned memory. No longer industrial waste, these drums now carry life instead of oil, soil instead of grime. Tiny patios often long for vertical inspiration, something bold to lift the gaze and break the horizontal plane. This tower delivers. It gives height to a low space, structure to a soft garden, and color to a quiet wall. Children are drawn to it. Guests admire it. Gardeners copy it. Surrounding the tower are whispers of other blooms, anemones nodding gently, thyme creeping beneath footfalls, bees humming with approval. The patio becomes a sanctuary. Not grand, but intimate. Not expensive, but soulful. In the reflection of its painted sides, you see yourself. A maker, a dreamer, a recycler of possibility. And perhaps that's the real magic of the Drum Planter Tower. It doesn't just hold flowers, it holds proof. That with a little vision and a dash of color, even the most forgotten things can grow again. They were shattered, not from carelessness, but from time. Once proud candy, those clay jugs that poured water at family tables, now lay cracked and useless. Or so it seemed. But in one quiet garden corner beneath a wooden pergola, their story changed. Where others saw ruins, the gardener saw rhythm. She gathered every shard, every handle, every flake of terracotta. With steady hands and patient hours, she arranged them into a wall that now sings in color and curve. The mosaic isn't perfect, it's alive. One fragment curves like a vine, another arches like a petal. Painted slivers catch the sunlight, their pale blues and earthy reds dancing among marigold shadows. Between the fragments, trailing time creeps in, softening the edges with green. This wall, standing low and humble, doesn't divide, it connects. It holds the memory of vessels that once carried life, now reborn as celebration. The pergola beside it becomes a sanctuary, cradled by this textured masterpiece. Sit on the nearby bench and let your eyes wander. A handle forms the eye of a flower, a jug's neck outlines a bird in flight. Around it, chrysanthemums nod in approval. Anemones bloom with elegance. Even the bees seem to hover longer here, as if listening. It's the kind of beauty that whispers, not shouts. People often ask, why didn't you just buy tiles? But how can store-bought pieces rival something that once lived, that once poured water for loved ones? These candy carry stories. And now, they carry light. There's a lesson in their brokenness, that nothing truly beautiful is ever wasted. In this garden, the past is not discarded. It is reimagined. So when you walk by this little wall, this collage of clay and courage, pause. Touch the surface. Feel the warmth of the sun it holds. And remember, sometimes the most fragile things, when broken, become the strongest art of all. At first glance, it's just a bamboo fence. Soft, warm, and simple, the kind that marks the boundary of a tiny garden corner. But look closer, and something unexpected reveals itself. There, winding through the vertical bamboo like ivy blessed by a fairy's hand, are shimmering vines made not from plants, but plastic bottles. Each tendril tells a story. A bottle once destined for landfill is now a twisting green leaf, its edges curled like it grew that way. A translucent petal glows amber in the sun. Bottle caps dot the fence like morning dew, some painted, others left raw, like tiny metallic seeds. It began with one gardener and a bag of plastic waste. She didn't see trash, she saw potential. She cut, curled, melted edges with care. She painted with soft greens, lilacs, and the faded gold of autumn. And slowly, her fence grew wild with vines that would never wither. Now, the bamboo doesn't stand alone. It dances. Wind rustles the plastic leaves with a gentle whisper. The vines throw playful shadows at noon and shimmer with dew at dawn. In the background, marigolds smile and anemones nod, nature embracing art made in her honor. It's the kind of detail that visitors don't forget. Wait, those are bottles? They ask, leaning in with delight. Children run their fingers over the edges, enchanted. Birds don't peck at them, but sometimes perch nearby, as if admiring the work. This is more than a DIY project. It's a rebellion. Against waste. Against boredom. Against the belief that beauty comes only from what is bought. In this garden, trash becomes treasure. The mundane becomes magical. And a fence, meant to divide, becomes a living mural that invites, inspires, and connects. So next time you pass by a pile of discarded plastic, remember, in the right hands, even yesterday's throwaway can become tomorrow's bloom. In the shrinking daylight of autumn, when the air begins to whisper of winter, gardens yearn not just for color, but for warmth. In one such backyard, nestled within the stone-edged heart of a tiny patio, stands a humble half-drum, reborn with fire in its belly. It once held oil, or maybe paint, its past is unclear. But its future now crackles with light. Cut clean and coated in matte black with brush strokes of bronze, the drum sits steady atop small stone legs, holding flame like it was born to. Around it, stones painted by hand form a quiet celebration: mustard, russet, and forest green. The colors echo the fall foliage, but don't try to mimic. Instead, they frame the fire as if it were a work of art. This fire pit doesn't roar. It glows. It hums. It welcomes. In the evenings, neighbors gather. Someone brings marshmallows. Someone else brings stories. A child leans in close, wide-eyed. A grandmother wraps her shawl tighter and smiles into the light. Behind them, fall flowers bloom boldly, anemones unfurling like silk, marigolds catching sparks of color in their petals, sedum glowing low to the ground. The garden seems to breathe with the fire. This fire pit wasn't bought from a store. It was built, dreamed, assembled from what was once dismissed. And that is its quiet magic. It doesn't need perfection. It just needs to burn, to offer warmth, to remind us that joy doesn't come from price tags, but from possibility. And in the cold months to come, when frost kisses the ground and the sun retreats early, the half-drum will remain, a guardian of light, laughter, and the stories we tell around its flame. In the quiet hour between day and night, when the sky blushes in lavender and gold, the front yard comes alive, not with sound, but with light. Not the harsh flash of bulbs or the sterile shine of plastic, but something warmer, something ancient. Along the winding garden path, clay jugs, Kendi once used to hold water, now cradle tiny sons. Each jug is pierced with gentle hands, stars, leaves, petals carved into their sides, whispering stories as they glow. These are not bought. They are remembered. Each jug tells its tale in light, filtered through paint and clay, softened by time. One shines through a sunflower cutout. Another casts delicate leaf shadows onto the ground. Together, they form a procession of lanterns that lead visitors not just to a home, but into a story. The flowers around them seem to lean closer. Marigolds open wider. Sedum reflects the amber glow. Japanese anemones sway as if dancing with the flickering shapes on the soil. By day, the jugs are rustic ornaments, painted in aged cream, moss green, and soft terracotta. By night, they become magic. Children pause at the gate. Neighbors slow down as they pass. Some wonder if it's real fire. Others whisper that it feels like entering a fairy tale. And perhaps it is. Because these lanterns were born not from a catalog, but from a quiet act of transformation. A gardener looked at a cracked candy and didn't see trash, she saw potential. She saw a new purpose in the old. A reason to glow. Now they light the way each evening. Not too bright. Never loud. Just enough to remind everyone who passes that beauty can begin in the broken, and that warmth can come from what we choose to hold on to. So come closer. Let the light guide you. And in the glow of these jug lanterns, may you find a bit of wonder waiting for you at the garden gate. There are garden gates made of iron, and there are trellises made of wood. But in this humble garden, the entrance is neither bought nor built, it's grown. Here stands an arch made entirely of twisted roots. Not shaped by tools, but by time. Each root, once hidden beneath the forest floor, now reaches skyward, tangled, aged, and unexpectedly elegant. They curve and cross, woven by patient hands into a gateway that feels ancient yet alive, like something out of folklore. Over the arch, nature reclaims her throne. Marigolds in hanging baskets drip with golden color. Japanese anemones float like silk across the wood. Aster vines cling tightly, as if they too want to be part of this transformation. Visitors often pause here, not just to admire, but to feel. To step beneath the arch is to step into another world. It feels sacred, this meeting of decay and bloom, of strength and softness. In the quiet of autumn, as leaves crunch beneath your feet, the root arch becomes more than a structure. It becomes a symbol. It tells a story of things once buried. Of roots torn from the earth by wind or axe, but not wasted. Instead, they are reborn, twisting into beauty, reaching again toward light. The gardener who built it didn't rush. She spent days arranging, rotating, letting the roots tell her where they wanted to bend. She left the bark on in places, peeled it in others, brushed oil into the grain until it glowed. Now, it is the heart of the garden. Beneath it, people take photos. Children run through it with joy. Lovers stop, hands intertwined. The arch doesn't just frame the flowers, it invites you into them. It's a threshold between the ordinary and the enchanted. And when the sun sets low and the blooms catch fire with color, the roots seem to sigh, grateful to have found a second life. So if you ever find a twisted root by the roadside or fallen deep in the woods, don't turn away. Bring it home. Let it rise again. Let it arch. In a narrow stretch of backyard where space once felt like a limitation, a fence quietly transforms. No longer just a barrier, it now breathes with life, thanks to a collection of painted plastic bottles that float like garden lanterns, carrying blooms in their bellies. Each bottle was once discarded, crushed, forgotten. But here, in the hands of a dreamer, they find rebirth. Mounted in neat rows, they mimic bricks, but instead of concrete, they cradle color. Instead of mortar, they hold marigolds. Tiny asters burst like stars from cut openings, and herbs spill over the sides with a fragrance that dances in the breeze. They call it a floating garden wall. Because the bottles, held up with near-invisible wire or hooks, seem to hover. There's a magic in their weightlessness, a defiance of what we expect from trash. It's not just practical. It's poetry. The wall feeds the bees. It cools the fence. It surprises every guest who turns the corner and gasps, "Those are bottles?" Each one is painted, some solid, others patterned with vines or dots or butterflies. The palette is soft but joyful, seafoam, plum, daffodil. The flowers echo the same hues, creating harmony where once there was blank wood. At night, solar lights above cast a glow across the bottles, and the wall glimmers like stained glass. By day, sunlight pours through the leaves, and shadows dance on the fence. This isn't a tutorial. It's a testament to creativity that grows where space is tight, to sustainability that sings, to the belief that even the narrowest of backyards can hold great beauty, if we choose to see what's possible in what we'd otherwise throw away. So if your garden feels too small, too closed in, remember this fence, these bottles, this wall that grew not in soil, but in the heart of someone who said, "Why not?" And from that question, blooms were born. At the heart of the garden, where paths converge and sun pours gently through the leaves, stands a totem, not of stone, nor wood, but of reclaimed rhythm. A bottom drum, once dented and rusted, now gleams in sage green, its surface smoothed and patterned with winding vines. On top, a kendi leans slightly, its spout facing the sky, as if singing. Another drum follows, this one brushed in warm cream, and above it a final jug, painted in bold coral, wears a crown of moss and sedum like wild hair. This is no sculpture from a gallery. It is garden poetry, a vertical verse written with what the world cast aside. Each layer holds meaning. The drums, sturdy and resonant, represent grounded strength. The jugs, curved and ancient, recall the flow of water and tradition. Together, they rise, imperfect but proud, into something unforgettable. The totem is a gathering point, a silent sentinel among the blooms. Children circle it in wonder. Garden guests pause to take it in. Birds perch atop it briefly, mistaking it for a natural tower. And all the while, the flowers around it respond. Asters bloom brighter at its base. Chrysanthemums seem to lean toward it. Some say it looks like a tower of stacked laughter. Others say it resembles a celebration frozen in time. But all agree, it feels alive. This is the gift of upcycled art in the garden. It honors both the past and the present. The totem does not hide its history, its dents, its scratches, the curve of a broken jug handle. Instead, it celebrates those marks. They become character. In small spaces, such bold features create impact. And in a world of fast design, this totem stands for something slower, more soulful. Because beauty doesn't need symmetry. It needs story. And here, in this tiny corner where metal meets clay, where color meets texture, and where trash meets transformation, the garden finds its guardian, stacked high, standing tall, and rooted in creativity.